Hey Reddit, I need to get this off my chest. It's been a while, but man, this whole situation still plays in my head like a bad movie. It's about my ex-wife, her boyfriend, and how they thought they had me cornered. Until the judge's final decision wiped the smug little smiles off their faces. A little about me. I'm Alex, 32, a mechanic. Been working on cars since I was 16, started out in my uncle's garage, then got certified and never looked back. I love what I do. Some people think mechanics just change oil and rotate tires, but these days, cars are basically computers on wheels. You gotta be sharp. You gotta know your stuff. And then there was Kate. We met 7 years ago when she brought her car into the shop. She had this white BMW, and I remember the way she looked at me, like she wasn't sure if I was qualified to touch her precious vehicle. She kept talking about how it was a premium European car and needed special handling. I should have known right then that she was high maintenance. But then she smiled and man, I was gone. Kate worked in marketing, dressed in designer clothes, always had her nails perfectly done. She was polished, put together, the kind of woman I never thought would give me a second glance. I came home every day with grease under my nails, wore the same busted-up work boots until they were falling apart. But she liked me. Or at least, I thought she did. For the first couple of years, everything was great. She seemed interested in my work, even brought me lunch at the shop sometimes. My coworkers couldn't believe I'd landed someone like her. And honestly, neither could I. We got married after 2 years. Had a big wedding. One of those fancy ones her parents mostly paid for. I pitched in what I could. But let's be real, my savings went into the house. A house I bought myself, by the way. Kate's dad co-signed to get me a better rate, but I made every single payment on my own. And that's where the cracks started to show. At first, Kate seemed excited about the house. She talked about how we'd fix it up together, how we'd make it ours. But then, when her work friends came over, I started noticing little comments. Oh, this is just our starter home. We're planning to move to a better neighborhood soon. Like the house I worked my ass off to buy wasn't good enough. Then there was how she introduced me at her work events. This is Alex. He owns his own business in the automotive industry. Technically, that would be true later. But at the time, I was just a mechanic. She never said that, though. Like she was embarrassed. Like I wasn't good enough. My sister Lisa saw through Kate from day one. She told me once, she looks at you like a project. Like she's trying to fix you. I laughed it off. Lisa's always been protective of me. Things got worse when Kate got promoted. Suddenly, I wasn't enough. The late nights started. The client dinners. The work trips. And always, this one guy's name kept coming up, Jack. Jack helped her get the promotion. Jack was such a great mentor. Jack was so supportive. One night, she came home late. Like really late. She was wearing a dress I'd never seen before. When I asked about it, she rolled her eyes. Emergency client dinner. Had to buy something last minute. The way she looked at me when she said it, like I was an idiot for even asking. That's when the comments about my job started. At first, they were subtle. Don't you ever think about doing something else? Maybe go back to school? Get a real career? Then they got worse. One time, a rich client brought his Ferrari into the shop. Most mechanics wouldn't touch it, but I had the certifications. It was a big deal. I told Kate about it, and you know what she said? So you're playing with expensive toys instead of thinking about your future? She laughed, like I was some joke. The breaking point? Her company's summer party. She insisted I come, said it would make up for all the events I'd missed. Funny, since I hadn't missed any, she just told people I wasn't there. I dressed up, spent good money on a nice suit. The whole night, she ignored me, stuck with her office crowd, laughing at their inside jokes. And then I saw her with him, Jack. They were standing close. Too close. The second they saw me, they jumped apart. I wasn't stupid. That night, after she went to bed, I started looking. Credit card statements. Restaurant charges for 2. Hotels. And the worst? An envelope from a jewelry store. Inside was a receipt for a men's watch. Expensive. My birthday wasn't anywhere close. And Kate had never bought me jewelry. Said it wasn't practical for a mechanic. So who was it for? I knew. But I didn't say anything. Not yet. Instead, I started playing the long game. I got smart. I gathered evidence. A buddy of mine, a cop, helped me set up a system, documenting dates, times, places she said she was, versus where she actually was. Screenshots of her location. Receipts. Photos of her car outside places she wasn't supposed to be. And all the while, I acted normal. Let her think I was the dumb mechanic who had no idea. One night, she came home early and found me at the kitchen table, going through financial documents. She smirked. More repair invoices? I slid my business school assignments under the stack. Yeah, just trying to keep track of everything. She sighed, all dramatic. You know, if you just let me handle the books like I suggested. I do have an MBA. I smiled. Wouldn't want to burden you. Besides, you're so busy with those late meetings. How was the one tonight? She looked at her phone. Productive. I bet it was. But the final straw? That was when I checked our joint savings account and saw she had drained almost everything. Left just enough to cover bills. I confronted her. She didn't even try to hide it. I'm investing in my future. That's when I called the lawyer. And that's when the real fun began. For 2 weeks, I played dumb. 2 weeks of pretending I didn't know. 2 weeks of watching Kate get ready in the morning, fixing her hair in the mirror, checking her phone with that little smirk she always got when she was texting someone she thought I didn't know about. 2 weeks of sitting across from her at dinner while she barely touched her food, scrolling through emails instead of looking at me. I barely slept. My hands itched to throw it all in her face, to tell her I knew everything. But my lawyer told me to wait. Let her think she's winning, he said. You'll get one shot at this, Alex. Make it count. So I waited. Then came the night it all blew up. It was a Thursday, Kate's usual late meeting night. I was at the shop, finishing up some paperwork, when my phone buzzed. My neighbor, Mike. Hey man, just thought you should know. Kate just pulled up with some guy. Not the usual delivery guy or anything. This one walked in like he owns the place. I gripped my phone so hard I thought I'd crush it. My stomach went ice cold. Thanks, Mike, I said. Appreciate it. I didn't rush home. I wanted to. Every nerve in my body screamed at me to drive there now, to storm in and catch them in the act. But I forced myself to take my time. I finished my work, cleaned up, wiped my hands, took a few deep breaths. The last thing I needed was to walk in there swinging. I didn't need a fight. I needed proof. By the time I pulled into the driveway, the house was dark, except for the kitchen light. I walked in quietly, shutting the door behind me. And there they were. Jack had his hands on her waist. Kate was laughing at something he said, head tilted back, eyes bright. The same way she used to look at me. I don't know what I expected to feel in that moment. Rage? Sadness? Some kind of deep, gut-wrenching heartbreak? I felt nothing. Just done. Kate turned, saw me, and froze. Oh my God, Alex. Jack jumped back like I'd caught him mid-crime. I set my keys down on the counter. My voice came out calm. Too calm. Get out. Kate blinked. Alex, let's just... Both of you. Now. Jack moved first, grabbing his jacket off the chair. He didn't even look at me. Didn't say a single word. Just bolted for the door like the coward he was. Kate, though? She wasn't done. You don't get to throw me out of my own house, she snapped, crossing her arms. I let out a small laugh. Not even an angry one, just disbelief. The house I paid for, I corrected. Or do you want me to pull up the mortgage records? Her face twitched. My dad co-signed the loan, Alex. And I refinanced it months ago. His name isn't on it anymore. That shut her up. I tossed a duffel bag onto the kitchen table. You have 30 minutes. She gaped at me. Then, like I knew she would, she pulled out her phone. I already knew who she was calling. 20 minutes later, her dad's SUV screeched into the driveway. Tom Reynolds stormed out, his face red. You can't do this, Alex, he bellowed. You can't just throw my daughter out onto the street. I pulled out my phone and hit record. You're trespassing, Tom. And I've already called the cops. That shut him up real quick. Tom was the kind of guy who only backed down when he realized he didn't have the upper hand. He shot a look at Kate, then turned back to me, lowering his voice. Listen, son, he said, like we were having a friendly chat. Let's be reasonable. We can talk this out. There's nothing to talk about, I said flatly. Your daughter's been cheating on me for months. I have proof. Hotel receipts. Messages. You really want to do this here, in front of the neighbors? Because yeah, there were neighbors. Mike was standing on his porch, arms crossed. The older couple across the street was watching. I saw curtains shifting in the other houses. People were listening. Tom clenched his jaw. Kate looked mortified. Then the cops pulled up. Kate packed her bags in silence while an officer stood by the door, arms crossed. Tom and her idiot brother Jason stood outside, both looking like they wanted to disappear. As Kate walked out with her bag, she stopped in front of me. "You're gonna regret this," she hissed. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. I smiled. "No, Kate, I really don't think I will." She left. Tom and Jason followed. Jack? He was already gone. Figures. The next morning, my lawyer filed the divorce papers. Kate got served at work. And that's when things got really interesting. The fallout was immediate. I found out later that Kate made a huge scene at her office when she got served. She broke down in tears, sobbing to her co-workers about how I was ruining her life, how I was cruel and heartless. Meanwhile, I was at the shop, tightening the last bolt on a suspension job, feeling lighter than I had in months. Her lawyer contacted mine the next day, all friendly and diplomatic. They wanted to negotiate before things got messy. That was rich, considering Kate had spent the last year treating me like some clueless idiot she could walk all over. They had demands. They wanted the house, because her dad co-signed the loan, so technically, it was a joint investment. They wanted half my savings, because she had sacrificed so much for our marriage. They even tried to claim part of my business assets, because she had supported my career and helped manage finances. I nearly laughed when my lawyer told me. I told him to tell them to go to hell. Kate didn't waste any time running to social media. Suddenly, I was the villain. She posted some long, dramatic caption about how some men can't handle a successful woman and how she had given everything to a marriage that wasn't working. Funny, she didn't mention Jack. Didn't mention that she had been planning to drain me dry while setting up her next life. But the best part? Her dad started running his mouth too. Tom had always been a smug bastard. He loved reminding people how powerful he was in the business world, how many connections he had. He started spreading rumors that I was financially unstable, and that Kate had been supporting me through our marriage. That's when I knew I had to hit back. I didn't just want to win. I wanted to make sure they never saw it coming. The first court hearing was just a preliminary one, but Kate and her family walked in like they had already won. She was dressed sharp, sitting next to her father, her brother, and, of course, Jack. That part actually made me laugh. The guy who helped destroy her marriage was sitting right there, like he was part of the damn legal team. My lawyer leaned in and whispered, "They have no idea what's coming." He was right. Kate's lawyer started off strong, spinning this whole sob story about how she had supported me, how she had helped build my business, how I was trying to take everything from her out of spite. Then they brought up the house. Tom got on the stand, talking about how he co-signed the loan because I wasn't financially stable enough to do it on my own. Without my support, he said, puffing out his chest, Alex wouldn't have been able to afford that home. It was always understood that it was a joint family investment. My lawyer just sat there, calm as ever, flipping through his notes. Then he stood up and asked Tom one simple question. "Mr. Reynolds, can you tell the court how many mortgage payments you personally made on this house?" Tom blinked. "Excuse me?" "It's a simple question," my lawyer said. "You claim this was a joint investment. How much money did you personally contribute?" Silence. Then my lawyer pulled out bank statements. Every single mortgage payment, made from my account. Tom turned red. Kate shifted in her seat. Then my lawyer hit them with the next bombshell. "Your Honor, my client refinanced the house 3 months ago. Mr. Reynolds' name is no longer on the loan." Kate's head snapped up. Tom looked like he swallowed a lemon. I had done it quietly, while they were busy planning how to screw me over. The judge nodded. "So, to be clear, Mr. Reynolds has no legal claim to this house?" My lawyer smiled. "Correct." Tom opened his mouth, then shut it. One by one, their arguments started falling apart. Then came the best part. Kate's lawyer tried to claim she had a right to part of my business because she had supported me and helped manage the finances. That's when my lawyer dropped the final hammer. He pulled out a contract, one Kate had never seen. 6 months ago, before I even knew about the affair, my boss had been preparing for retirement. Instead of hiring a manager, he sold the entire shop. To me, I was the owner. And Kate? She hadn't known a damn thing. Her lawyer stammered. Your Honor, this is clearly an attempt to hide assets. The judge held up a hand. This sale was completed before the divorce was filed? Yes, Your Honor, my lawyer said, with funds from my client's personal savings and a business loan. His wife was never involved in the purchase. Kate looked like she wanted to be sick. Her dad turned to her, whispering furiously. Jack was suddenly very interested in his phone. Then my lawyer played the final card. A set of recordings. Kate, telling Jack how embarrassed she was to be married to a grease monkey. Kate, laughing about how she was going to upgrade once she got rid of me. Kate's dad, joking about how they'd push me into signing over assets. The courtroom was dead silent. The judge leaned back in his chair. Then he looked at Kate's lawyer. I assume your client would like to revise her demands? Kate was shaking. Her lawyer tried to recover, saying she deserved something for her emotional contributions. That's when my lawyer played one last recording, Kate telling me, just months ago, that my job wasn't a real career and that I was going nowhere. The judge sighed. Mrs. Reynolds is entitled to 3 months of temporary support. Beyond that, she has no claim to the house or the business. Kate let out this strangled noise. That's not fair. The judge didn't even look up. That's my ruling. Kate lost. Her dad lost. And Jack? He walked out halfway through the decision, like he suddenly remembered he had somewhere else to be. Kate completely lost it. The moment the judge finished speaking, she shot up from her seat. This isn't fair. I wasted years on him. I gave up so much for this marriage. Her voice cracked, not from sadness, but pure, entitled rage. The judge barely even looked at her. Mrs. Reynolds, sit down. Unless you'd like to be held in contempt? Her mother grabbed her arm, whispering something frantically, but Kate yanked away. She turned to her lawyer like he could somehow fix this, but even he looked like he wanted to disappear. There was no coming back from this. I sat there, watching her unravel, feeling nothing. No anger. No satisfaction. Just done. Kate had spent the last year treating me like a fool, making plans behind my back, laughing with her boyfriend about how easy it would be to take me for everything. And now? She had nothing. The judge left. Court was adjourned. My lawyer shook my hand, grinning. That went better than expected. Meanwhile, Kate's family was in full meltdown mode. Her dad looked like he was about to explode, muttering to her mother about how this should have been airtight. Jason, her idiot brother, was typing furiously on his phone, probably already trying to spin the story. And Jack? Jack was gone. Somewhere between Kate's breakdown and the judge's ruling, he had slipped out of the courtroom. No goodbyes. No reassurances. Just gone. Can't say I was surprised. Kate, though, she wasn't ready to accept it yet. She stormed out of the courtroom, pushing past people, her heels clicking against the marble floor. By the time I stepped outside, she was in the parking lot, pacing, phone pressed to her ear, her free hand clenching and unclenching at her side. She called him. She called him again. Then she sent a text. Probably something pathetic like, "Where are you?" She stared at the screen, waiting. Nothing. And then, slowly, her shoulders slumped. That was it. She wasn't getting her payday. She wasn't getting Jack. And, judging by the way her parents were glaring at her, she probably wasn't even getting much sympathy from them. She turned then, finally noticing me standing by the courthouse steps. For a moment, she just looked at me. And in that moment, I saw the truth settle into her eyes. She had lost. I didn't say a word, just gave her a slow, knowing smile. Then I walked away. Over the next few weeks, Kate's life fell apart. Jack was officially out of the picture. Not only did he dump her the second he realized she wasn't getting a dime, but he was also dealing with his own fallout. See, his company had very strict policies about workplace relationships. Someone, I won't say who, sent HR the court transcripts proving he had been screwing around with a married coworker. Jack got demoted, then transferred. to some tiny office 3 states away. Kate? Her entire reputation at work was destroyed. Turns out, the high-profile client she had been working on with Jack, they didn't like being associated with a messy scandal. They requested a different team, which meant Kate was suddenly less valuable to the company. She tried to act like nothing was wrong, but people talked. Whispers in the break room. Side eyes during meetings. She ended up quitting. Not because she had some grand career move lined up. No, she quit because she couldn't handle being a joke in the office. So now she was jobless, boyfriendless, and, thanks to the 3-month support payments running out, struggling financially. And me? I was thriving. The shop was doing better than ever. Turns out, my court case made the rounds in the local business community. People loved the story, the blue-collar guy who outplayed his cheating wife and her arrogant family. Some even sent more business my way just to show support. I had more work than I could handle, hired 2 more mechanics, started looking at opening a second location. Then, one night, I got an email. From Kate. I almost didn't open it. But curiosity got the better of me. It was long. Too long. A whole essay about how she had made mistakes, how she never meant to hurt me, how she had realized too late what she had lost. She mentioned Jack, said she finally saw him for what he was. A coward. A man who was never going to give her the life she thought she deserved. And then, she asked if we could talk. No apology. No real accountability. Just, "I miss you, Alex. Can we talk?" I stared at the screen for a while. Then I laughed. Talk? After everything? I didn't even reply. Just deleted it. And that was that. Kate had made her choices. And now, she had to live with them. Kate didn't stop at one email. Over the next few weeks, she tried again. First, it was another long, emotional message about how she missed what we had and how she just wanted to talk. When I didn't respond, the tone changed. She started bringing up our history. "We were together for years, Alex. Doesn't that mean anything to you?" "No, Kate. Not anymore." Then came the guilt tripping. "I know I hurt you, but is this really how you want to remember us? I just want closure." Closure? She wanted closure after blowing up our marriage, draining our savings, and treating me like an idiot while she planned her exit? No thanks. Then came the last email, the desperate one. "I made a mistake. I was stupid. Jack was a mistake. Leaving you was a mistake. Can we just meet for coffee? Please." I didn't respond to that one either. And that, I think, is when she finally got the message. Because she stopped trying. And honestly, that was the most satisfying part. Not the courtroom victory. Not seeing Jack run for the hills. Not even watching her parents turn their backs on her when they realized she wouldn't be their meal ticket. No, the best part was knowing that she wanted to come back, and that I wouldn't let her. I was done. Months passed. Life moved on. The shop was thriving. I was making more money than I ever had. The second location was officially in the works, and I was finally at a place where I could breathe, really breathe, without feeling like I was waiting for the next disaster to hit. One day, I was under a car, checking out a suspension issue, when I heard someone clear their throat. I rolled out from under the vehicle and found myself looking at an older man in a suit. Slicked back hair. Expensive watch. The kind of guy who never steps foot into a mechanic shop unless he has to. I wiped my hands on a rag and stood up. "Can I help you?" He smiled. "You must be Alex." I nodded, already irritated. "And you are?" "I work with Tom Reynolds. Kate's dad." "Of course." I crossed my arms. "Not interested." His smile didn't waver. Now, let's not be hasty. Mr. Reynolds just wants to have a conversation." I snorted. "A conversation? About what?" He spread his hands. "He sees now that you're a smart businessman. He misjudged you. But that doesn't mean you can't work together." That got a real laugh out of me. "You mean, he wants in on my business?" The guy chuckled, like we were old friends. "Think of it as mutual benefit. He has resources." I cut him off. "Let me stop you right there." I stepped closer, dropping my voice. "I don't need Tom's resources. I don't need his money. And I sure as hell don't need him in my life." The guy's smile twitched. "Alex, you can tell Tom that the only thing I'd ever consider doing with him is letting him book an appointment. And even then, I'd charge him double." His face darkened. You're making a mistake. I tilted my head. No, I said. I made a mistake 7 years ago when I got involved with his daughter, and I've spent the last year fixing it. I turned and walked back toward the shop, wiping the grease off my hands. The guy didn't follow. I didn't need to look back to know he was fuming. A few weeks later, I was sitting outside a coffee shop when Lisa, my sister, plopped down across from me. Guess who I saw today? She said, grinning. I took a sip of my coffee. I don't know. Bigfoot? Close, she said. Kate. That caught my attention. I hadn't seen her since court. Lisa leaned in, eyes dancing with amusement. She looked rough. Like, really rough. Dark circles, hair a mess, wearing some basic-ass outfit. Not Kate at all. I raised an eyebrow. Where? She was at the grocery store. Buying, like, instant ramen and frozen meals. Lisa smirked. Guess that fancy executive salary didn't last long. I didn't say anything. Lisa tapped her fingers on the table. You don't feel even a little bad? I thought about that for a second. Kate had everything lined up. A rich boyfriend, a guaranteed payout, a family ready to fight for her. She had options. And she still lost. Not because I did anything to her, but because she thought she was untouchable. Because she assumed I'd be an easy target. And when she realized I wasn't, she crumbled. So no, I didn't feel bad. I met Lisa's gaze. She made her choices. Lisa grinned. Damn right she did. She leaned back, stretching her arms. So, now that you're a hotshot business owner, what's next? New girlfriend? New house? What's the plan? I thought about it. For the first time in years, my life was completely my own. No manipulative wife. No scheming in-laws. No stress. Just me, my work, and a future I actually wanted. I leaned back in my chair, smiling. No plan, I said. Just living.